in the Middle East has a name. Its name is Israel. Did the Palestinian people democratically vote for the state of Israel to be founded on their land? Did they democratically vote to be ethnically cleansed and displaced? Did the people of Iraq democratically vote to be invaded by the United States? What is the US and Britain's record with democracy, not just in what we call the Arab world, but in the third world as a whole? What did the British and the United States think of democracy in Iran in 1953 when they elected Mossadegh, a man who wanted to nationalize Iran's oil, what was then called the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company and is now known as British Petroleum, BP? What did Britain and the United States think of that democracy? How did they react to that democracy? You know how? They overthrew it and brought back in the Shah in the White Revolution, so they could each take 40% of the oil and the Iranians could take 20%. How did they react to that democracy? Did they respect that democracy? How did they feel about democracy in Palestine when they elected Hamas? I don't think they liked it much. How did they respond to democracy in the Congo when they elected Lumumba? They got rid of him. How did they like democracy in Chile when they elected Allende? September 11th, 1973, they brought in Margaret Thatcher's best friend, Mr. Pinochet. And now we all know what type of man Pinochet was. But what did they think of that democracy? What did they think of democracy in Bolivia when they elected Morales? What did they think of democracy in Ecuador when they elected Carrera? A leader who turns around and says, you know what? If you have a US military base in Ecuador, I want a military base from my country in Miami. What happened? What's going on? What are they trying to do? What about Chavez in Venezuela? What about that democracy? What about Nkrumah in Ghana? What about that democracy? Even in Australia, Mr. Whitlam, what did they think of that democracy? Australia, which now has 3 US military bases within it. What did they think of this democracy? And what's this all about? It's all about words. It's all about redefining your own definitions, which you know as a human being, which are already in you as a human being. You already know the definitions, but they want to switch them over and flip them around and give them different words to make sense of your reality for you, rather than you being able to make sense of your own reality. And Mr. Obama, it has to be said, has been rewarded. He's been completely rewarded. Before he became the President of the United States, he made a speech in front of AIPAC where he said, I promise to give the Israelis $30 billion of aid over the next 10 years. Recently, much was made. Much was made over the fact that he even suggested, slightly suggested, some type of return to 67 borders. But what did he really say? What did he really say? He said mutually agreed land swaps. Is there anything mutual about an illegal settlement? Is there anything mutual about these settlements? And actually that means that the 67 borders don't even exist. Because he said mutually agreed land swaps, so basically the settlements stay. But of course a big deal was made out of it. Not remembering that in fact George Bush and Bill Clinton both said the same thing. They both said, yeah, let's take it back to 67 borders. What have the Israelis done now? Recently, a settlement in Jerusalem was named after Obama. An Israeli settlement in Jerusalem was named after Obama. He has been rewarded because he has funded this expansion. This expansion has been funded. That is the one thing that Israel could not survive without the support of the United States. There's only been one time when the United States have ever gone against Israel, ever. And it's when the Israelis, the British, and the French attacked Egypt. When Jamal Abdel Nasser wanted to nationalize the Suez Canal, Eisenhower came in and said to the Israelis, the French, and the British, no, leave him. The only time in history, in the 50s, What are we dealing with? We are dealing with such an organized lobby. Such an organized mafia is at work. Not only in the United States. Why do you think Nick Clegg, he didn't just U-turn on the issue of tuition fees? Before becoming the Deputy Prime Minister of this country, Nick Clegg said there should be an arms embargo on the state of Israel. However, when he became the Deputy Prime Minister, he stood before the Liberal Democrat Friends of Israel, the lobby group that it is, and said, I was wrong about Israel. I was wrong about Israel. The Conservative Friends of Israel have given a huge amount to the Conservative Party while they have been in opposition. And that buys things. It buys things. We have to organize, and we have to be organized. Knowing is not enough anymore. We have to mobilize and actively lobby. And I met a few different members of European Parliament, and one